Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Mark diTargiani on the line, and he is the founder and head coach over at Satori Sales Strategies. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. It's great to be here.
Oh, man, I'm excited to get into what you're doing over at Satori Sales Strategies and how you're helping your clients. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in your career?
Well, my career started as a school teacher and a coach. And when I got out of college, that was the first thing that I did. But I felt like there was more out there. And I grew up on the East Coast. I'd always wanted to move to California. So I moved to California, and I found myself looking for a job. And I'm a former lacrosse player. I actually joined a lacrosse team out there, and through the guys that I met there, I ended up getting an interview in sales. And I had no idea what sales was, quite honestly, at the time, but it sounds like it was interesting. So I had my first interview with a company called RS Hughes, and they hired me, and that's what started my sales career. But what's interesting is my sales career actually started in the warehouse because that's where this company had people start. So my kind of funny that I started by moving boxes because they wanted us to learn that business from the ground up.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and working your way up. And I think, speaking of working your way up, let's bring it closer to what you're doing today. So now at the Torres Sales Strategies, first, just start off and give us a little bit of background on the business, please.
Sure. The business is a sales coaching and consulting company, and I had a epiphany of sorts with sales. And when I had that first sales job that I was talking about before, I was out in the field. I was calling on people. I was doing really what I'd call old school sales at this point, driving around and talking to people. But I really wasn't doing well. My boss rode with me one day, and at the end of the day, he said to me, Mark, it seems like your clients like you, but I didn't hear you ask for an order all day. And I was like, what do you mean ask for an order? He said, well, you got to ask for the order. You have to close to get the order. And that just burned into my brain, and I became a student of closing. And I took courses, I read books, I knew the Columbo close, I knew the takeaway close, I knew the subjective close, I knew all these different closes, and soon I was the number one salesperson in the region. And they called me the closer, and I was always feeling pretty proud about that, but there was something that really wasn't firing me up about sales at the time, so I went back into teaching, and then came out of teaching again, got back into sales because I had moved again, and I found the same thing. I was able to close. I was able to go to the top of the company again, but something just didn't feel right. And then I actually met a woman and got married and went on my honeymoon to Mexico. And as we were staying in Mexico, we were invited to see one of those timeshare presentations. And I thought, hey, they're going to be giving us $100 to go. I'm going to go. So long story short, we went there. They moved and pushed and cajoled. And I actually bought a timeshare, swiped my credit card, and I went back to the pool that day. And I felt terrible, Adam. Wow. I felt kind of used, kind of sullied, and really angry, and it hit me. I was like, wow, I got closed. The closer got closed. And it struck me as I sat there that day, it's like, wow, is this what I'm doing in the world? Is this the way people feel like when I leave the room? And it suddenly put this whole idea of closing and that manipulation that came from that old school style into question for me. So I had a little bit of an existential crisis there for a little bit, but I simply decided to go back to what I I had done as a teacher and what made me good as a teacher, and that was asking good questions, being curious about the answers and asking follow-up questions, telling a few good stories along the way, and putting the benefit of my customers before my own benefit. So that was the genesis, that shift, because then I started feeling better about sales. Sales became a way of serving people, not of selling people. And as I became better at that, other people were attracted to that. I began to coach people in that particular style of selling, which I named soul-centered selling. And that became the basis of what Satori Sales Strategies does.
Man, what a great story. First of all, you said the closer got closed and you felt terrible. That's, that's something to think about there for a moment. When you said that, that hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh. And what I love about it though is with this soul-centered approach, you found a way to where obviously people can still meet their metrics. They can still provide value in the marketplace, but they could do it in a better, in a more, I guess I would say an approach that aligns more with their personal ethics, so they don't have to have those other feelings. Let's go into a little bit more into this approach and what it means.
Sure. So, soul-centered selling really, it's based in intention. And what is your intention when you go into the office every day, when you go to make a sales call, when you pick up that phone? Is your intention to sell somebody something? And if it is, that's really an ego-based activity. That's an ego-based intention. Selling is about winning, right? There's a winner in that. The seller wins, the buyer. And I found that to be a zero-sum game there. But if you go into that day, that sales call with a different intention, that I'm here to serve this person, I'm here to serve their needs, to serve whatever problems they have and find solutions for them, that's a soul-centered place. And that's a place where everybody wins. And so at the basis of it is really where are you coming from, right? And then after you determine really where you're coming from, then it's what are you talking about? And I have a methodology that is based on soul. It's SOUL. And S is be a student of the story. Stories are very important in sales, and be a student of the story that you're being told. Understand the story of your prospect, and also be very aware of the stories that you're telling to your prospect. O is observe and orient, and that's paying attention, that's being curious, that's asking follow-up questions, that's listening in between the words, if you will. And it's also about orient is about qualification. And I used to think closing was the most important step of the sales process, but I believe qualification is. And if you can qualify people early in the process, whether you can solve their problem or not, then you're going to have better close rates, then you're going to have better pipelines, and you're going to do better down the road. So early in the process, orienting, now that we know what your problem is, what my solution is, does it make sense to move forward? The U is for understanding what's at stake, Adam. And that's really, it's three levels of things for your prospect. There's usually a surface level problem that's happening. We're not getting paid by our clients we're not being paid by our clients fast enough. There's an underlying problem, which is a business problem, right? That's causing a cash flow crunch, right? And below that, there's an emotional problem. Here's this business owner not getting paid, not getting the cash flow going, so they can't reinvest in their business and grow, and it becomes a frustration, right? So it's understanding what's at stake when you're solving problems for your clients. And L is leadership. And to me, sales of today and the future is about leadership. The old school sales was people pushing people towards places. Today, I think it's about leadership. It's about salespeople as leaders. It's about creating visions of what the world can be like when prospects' problems are solved, and then leading people and getting them to follow you to that direction. So that's the core, the process, if you will, in soul-centered selling.
And so, first off, I'm sold. I mean, that sounds like a much better approach of selling than, the hard close or, like you said, all these other mnemonic devices or whatever we want to call them in terms of getting a sale done. Your way just sounds a lot more organic. It sounds a lot more like you're going to leave the client with feeling good after. I mean, that's amazing, and it leads to longer term solid relationships.
And leaving you feeling good afterwards too.
Absolutely. So that being said, Mark, if somebody's listening to this right now and they do want more information on Satori Sales Strategies, how do they get that info?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Mark diTargiani. The last name is spelled diTargiani. I also have a website that's markditargiani.com. Again, markditargiani.com. And those would probably be the best two ways to reach out to me, Adam.
That's awesome, Mark. Well, hey, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about all the great work you're doing over at Satori Sales Strategies to help your clients. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, share this with your friends, your family, your coworkers. I mean, do all those great things that we do to support our podcasters. It really does mean a lot to me and my team. And Mark, thanks again for coming on the show.